Hey everyone, Ivy Lee Gaming here, and today we're playing Watcher of Realms. For today's video, we're going to take a look at the lords and factions and the bonuses that go along with it.
The finest blood for the most untainted soul.
So we have a hero ancient summoning event finally coming to the global servers, our very first one. Now, with this brings a higher chance to summon a Lord hero. It also brings an exclusive time to summon the Chaos Dominion faction, which is a new faction being added to the global servers. Now, this is not a new faction for the Forerunner servers, but let's just assume new for most players. When it comes to the ancient summoning here, I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but pretty much these are a special summoning crystal that you can only use during these special events. If it's the same as it was before in the Forerunner server, from what I saw, whatever research I could find, it does look like it is a 200 pity, but the rates go up at 200 to 8% plus 8% for every summon to guarantee a legendary, and the rates kind of they're kind of meh overall. I guess you could say they're a little bit difficult. Let's just say to get a hero still. It's 1% chance to get just a regular legendary hero. It is 0.8% chance to get a legendary lord from an ancient summoning crystal. That's it, guys. Nothing is guaranteeing you a legendary lord. And that is one of the misconceptions. I feel like people are acting all excited like they're guaranteed to get a legendary lord, but it is 0.8%. So that is the same as a 2 times rate for divine summoning. That's a good comparison. You'll have higher chances to get epic lords as well and rare, but that's going to be the reality, guys. So these crystals are still exciting. It's still something a little bit special, but don't go out of your way selling all your crappy legendaries just to get a crystal, because you can still get rare heroes. You can still get epic heroes. It's kind of, there's no guarantee, you know, it's just a little bit higher chance. And you do get more advanced summoning, ancient summoning crystals once you get rolling in this game than you would the legendary crystals. So it is still a better chance overall, and it is nice, but there's no guarantee, so keep that in mind. They are also going to be doing a free event here where they're going to give us 5 summons for free. So I'm really looking forward to that. I will say now that I will not be live streaming Saturday or Sunday for this event, so sorry guys, no summoning party for the ancients, but we will have our normal Friday summoning party for 2 times rates up. And I will, of course, do my ancient summons for a video, so you'll still get to see if I have any luck. But just keep that in mind that it is it's a special summoning crystal, but there's no guarantee. You're not getting a lord. There's no guarantee at the end of the day. So we're going to head on over to the test server and take a look at the lords. And yeah, we're going to break this down a little bit because this is the perfect time to talk about the lords, the factions, and all the bonuses that go along with it. So first up, we have the Watchguard. I figured I would go through these graphics from the official social media channels first. So members of the Watchguard are well balanced with their ultimates boasting impressive effects. So the epic lord hero Ain is someone we get from the login, but unfortunately he's not exactly top tier. I would not go maxing him out to level 60 by any means, but certainly when you get him, take him to level 40, promote him and use him as you can. He does have some nice range with an extra block of tile, in front of him for doing more damage with like a defender in front of him. And yeah, he's actually pretty decent for sake of boosting some of those really great heroes. Like if you got Iona early on, he's gonna go great with her. So the faction ability here, they say the Watchguard heroes have distinct ultimates that offer varying effects in different combat scenarios. The DPS heroes use unique skills such as split attack and global skills. Defensive heroes receive AoE damage reduction and immunity to damage. The healers stack healing effects. So they are suggested to be used in the gear raids. Overall, they're going to be pretty general use heroes that excel in a lot of areas of the game, especially the gear raids overall. Definitely true. I mean, can't go wrong with Layla for a healer and Regulus for a defender. But let's take another look again back over here on the test server. So we have Layla is the legendary lord. When you awaken her to level 2, she actually has a +5 to all ally attack. That's really nice for her faction allies. So the Lord skill for her periodically increases damage and healing multiplier by 30% for 20 seconds. The more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequent it takes effect. When any faction ally is healed, their damage will increase. So this is a really great supportive faction. Same goes for Ain. It's just lesser stats right here without the bonus of this extra damage boost from healing. So Ain is just the lower tier, and then below him, of course, is Borat, who we do get for free. You'll use him until you get Ain more than likely, but after you get Ain, you're probably going to not have much of a use for Borat on your team because Ain is just the better version, and if you're just using him for the faction ability, you're going to go there. But yeah, this is kind of the watch guard. They're a bit of a protective and general use, I would say, faction. You've got people like Lightlock here. We all love Lightlock. He can be a great healer and he can be built to do damage. We've got Iona, who's our favorite $5 champion, although you can pull her within the normal pool as well. Toriel is also one that a lot of people get for free, or Brienne with the very first set of summons where you end up getting a marksman, and she's very strong. But yeah, this is a really great faction. Mariel has some heal for her allies if you get her awakened. Dallin has the cost. Dallin and Serene have that cost reduction, you know, kind of replenishment, I mean. So pretty good overall. So next up we have the North Throne, powerful defenders. Faction ability. Members of this faction are mostly tanks. With great defensive power, they are able to resist strong damage dealt by the enemies. Of course, they're keying out here a legendary lord hero, King Hars, who's really good. Although he's not going to be as easy to summon, but hey, Isolde is here. A lot of us probably have 1 or 2 copies, maybe even 3 from summons or the shard summon event that we did, the fragment event, where we were able to get copies of Isolde for free just by grinding out and getting the resources. And yeah, she is really good. So Isolde is very quickly becoming one of my favorite defenders, and I have taken her to 6-star with no regrets. I seem to have a lot of heroes in this faction, Velcra included, who's very strong, and so that's a really nice pairing with Isolde. We also have Vortex and some others, but we'll point those out in a moment. So strong defense and extra shield is kind of their go-to. So for recommended game modes, they're talking about the gear raids and, of course, the artifact material raid as well. There's going to be a lot of need for defenders to protect those fighters that are attacking the boss for artifact material raid, so they're going to come in handy. Same thing when it comes to gear raid, especially gear raid 2. You really need good defensive heroes to survive and do damage, and that one can get a bit messy, so this is going to be a great faction just for the defensive base. Again, let's head over to the test server and take a look. So we have the Lord skills here. Let's take a look. We have King Hars, of course, who everyone loves. There's also another one here that is not part of the global server just yet, so we're just going to give you that teaser. That's all you get for now. But all right, so the legendary lords here. We have a basic attributes, of course, by 15% for the legendary, 10 for the rare or epic, and 5% for the rare. Periodically grants all faction allies a shield equal to 30% of their max HP, and other allies a shield equal to 15% of their max HP for 20 seconds. The more faction allies there are, the the more frequently it takes effect. So they're all about shields and protection, which is really great to have. You're going to want to take advantage of a Soul Days Lord bonus if you have her, for sure. Obviously, King Hearts if you have him instead, but if you don't, we at least have a Soul Day. So there's also this extra one for him. The defense of shielded faction allies is increased by 20%. That's really nice for survivability. In harder content like Guild Boss, having defense is really key, as well as like Gear Raid 2 that really can pump out some damage and it's hard to survive. But yeah, let's take a look here. So we do get Dagna. She's the rare one pretty easily, summoning wise, but you can certainly use her for that faction until you get a Soul Day, or ideally the higher level King Hearts here, but not everyone can be that lucky. This does have a really great faction. There's some unfamiliar faces here too, but we have some very familiar ones. As we're talking about Gear Raid 2, we have our queen here, Sadie. There's some great hard hitters like Nocturne in the mix as well, and Velcro, who you guys know I absolutely love. We also have Vortex and Medan and Lightlock, who are three of the best healers in the game. Vortex and Medan are both HP-based healers, so they're a lot easier to keep alive in harder content, again, like Guild Boss and Gear Raid 2 especially. Lightlock can be an AoE damage dealer where needed and do some really surprisingly good work. I'm sure you guys have already seen some videos on that. I haven't done it myself, but you can check out others like Mabucket if you want to see some more of what he is really capable of. We also have Mari, who we all get for free with the login as well. She's really great for crowd control. We have Maul, who is a great AoE damage dealer. He smacks, and he's so good. I'm really glad I finally 6-starred my Maul, and I use him everywhere I can. Oleg is our rare to summon defender that we also all love and just had as part of a 10 times event. Another very strong defender. This is a very good faction. I love how every faction is truly great and they're unique in their own way. So next up we have the Nightmare Council, the all-rounded faction. That's pretty interesting that they call them that. I really like that actually. I kind of didn't expect that to be their title, but I kind of like it. When multiple faction members are on the field, gains an additional buff to deal massive damage. Really cool faction. So Torador is our legendary lord for that faction. Someone we all would hope to pull. So the Nightmare Council heroes possess ability to heal themselves in battle. I love that. It's super cool. Really helpful to have a self-sustain. So again, the more faction members on the team, the faster they attack. This is the one with the attack speed. So they're all-rounded, group buffs, and lifesteal effects. Great for Guild Boss, all the gear raids, and artifact material raid. And this is so true. When it comes to Guild Boss, this is one of the best factions, probably the best faction for Guild Boss. This is going to be the one that you want to use. You can even do a little bit of a cheese, placing members, then removing them to still take advantage of the attack speed buff for having 4 members deployed. Even if you recall a couple members, you still get the buff on the heroes that remain on the field. And then, of course, we get our free hero, Wrath, which we'll talk about in a second as well. But it's a really good faction. And even Volca here is our free legendary that we get for completing the hero's path. She has a really nice ability when you get her Awakening 1, which you get for free by completing Tide level 105. She actually reduces the revival time of all allies by 25%, which is huge. So you probably have heard some people talk about her cheesing some content. Someone had mentioned cheesing Gear Raid 2, and then like the next day Mabucket put a video out on it. So that's a really fun strat. I haven't quite got it to work myself, but I can definitely see the benefit. But let's take a deeper dive. All right, so we have Torador. So just like all the others, we have the overall basic attribute buff. With him, his awakening is extra attack speed for all faction allies. You get him awakened too. And then we have every time a faction ally is deployed, all deployed faction allies gain 5, 10, 20, and 35% attack speed. up to 35 is the max, of course. However, their received healing effects are reduced by 15%. You're going to want to keep this in mind in areas like Gear Raid 2 where you take a lot of damage. This could also be something that hinders you in maybe some of the campaign progression where they have the acid rains or the poisons. It might cause you to actually die, and you might be better off not putting Wrath or Torador in your leader spot if you're having trouble with survivability, because you're going to receive less healing. So that's the negative side to this, but trust me, it's a really good faction. And more often than not, this attack speed bonus is going to be huge, especially in areas like Guild Boss. So again, great faction. Let's take a quick look here. Lots of crazy people here. Oof. Including some not so familiar faces, but hey, we're on the test server here, so you guys get little teasers, don't you? We have Wrath, who's one of my favorite heroes in the game. Huts, who is arguably considered the best hero in the game overall. Defender like Azor, not the best, but hey, he'll help. He'll help give you the bonus. Salazar, one of our favorite guild boss heroes, also really great for Gear Raid 2. Abomination is so good, and another somewhat free hero if you get lucky pulling the epics at least. Volca is our truly free hero by just completing content, and Arrogance is one of our most wanted heroes that, you know, we kind of wish we got, that we probably all did not get lucky enough to pull, even if we rage spent for the last event. But that's another story. So we also have Greed here, who's probably a bit underrated. Baron is a very good tank. That's probably a lot of people's number one. Commodore is part of the fusion for Abomination. He can also probably be used as a bleed hero for Guild Boss, although I haven't personally tested it to see if he's worth it. Like, do I 6-star a Komodo, sorry, or do I 6-star a Demos? I think Demos is the answer, but again, Demos, another really strong hero. This is such a good faction. It's one of the ones that I've already, even without fully maxed heroes, completed in the faction trials as well. So a really cool faction. Next up, we have the Cursed Call, Ultimate AoE Masters. So you know that just screams Gear Raid 1. The cultists specialize in unleashing AoE attack, wreaking havoc upon masses of monsters and dealing massive damage. Of course, we have legendary Lord Morrigan, who seems to be a little bit more common for people to summon. I'm always surprised at how many people I see pull her within the first few days of gameplay. It was actually kind of crazy. I do not have one myself, but I would love her. She's a massive boost for Gear Raid 1. And yeah, I really, really wish I had her in my roster. She's probably one of my biggest wishes just for the sake of pushing some content like that. So the cultists are capable of dealing massive damage when facing enemies in groups. The DPS heroes deal continuous AoE damage. Defensive heroes provide continuous slows and crowd control. And the healers provide continuous rage regen, which is really helpful in some late game content. Of course, I think rage regen is awesome. Hollow is really great for that reason. Helpful in Guild Boss and really everywhere. Unparalleled AoE debuffing heroes. So gear raids are they're definitely going to shine in the gear raids. Gear Raid 3, marksmen or mages are both pretty damn good, honestly. You can certainly get away using a couple mages there, not only marksmen, to clear some of the craziness that starts to happen. But Gear Raid 1 is where this faction is really going to shine. And on over to the test server again here, we have, of course, Morrigan, also a Demi, a not as familiar face for us global people, but yeah, faction allies AoE damage plus 5% when you get her awakened. But we have the overall faction ally bonus, and then increases faction allies damage dealt to enemies inflicted with stun, freeze, immobilize, and other control effects. So this is where you can even just have Amari in the team to freeze and slow and really help to give more damage to the entire team. Well, at least from the allies that are part of this faction. If you have Morrigan in the team, oh, it's so good. And increases faction allies AoE damage by 25%. There's also Aeon as the epic. So she's got the same, just without that extra bonus damage. And our rare of this faction is Nero. He's one of those who has an extremely high placement cost that I don't think anyone's really going to use him. If you're going to use him, you're probably only using him for his Lord bonus. But yeah, this faction has Zealous, who, again, really high placement costs, but he can be really helpful in Gear Raid 1, so don't underestimate him there. Vierna, one of our favorite newer AoE damage dealers, added to the global servers. Even Captain Rev, really great AoE damage and crowd control as a defender. He's got a bit of a quirky kit, but hey, he can smack. We've got Hollow as a healer and rage regen. Greed, again, is part of this faction as well. Iona is our favorite $5 hero, as I called her before. She also pairs with this faction. And of course, Voltus is one of the free heroes you get early on, who's great to take up to level 40, 50 at the most, to help push through early game content. The Inferno Blast, the strongest single target DPS heroes. Ooh, another great faction for Guild Boss. Heroes of this faction can deal massive burst damage while they're under focus fire effects. So of course, Twin is the legendary lord that we're all hoping to pull for this faction to help make our Guild Boss even better. And as we talk about Guild Boss, there are 3 heroes right there that are amazing and maybe key for Guild Boss overall. Zilla2 is one of the highest damage dealers for Guild Boss overall, but she really does need to be with her faction to take advantage. Dolores is our favorite booster. She boosts everyone's attack and heals a little bit as well, but she's kind of a necessary addition to like things, even Gear Raid 1, but Guild Boss for sure. And Setram is our favorite shield blaster. He does single target damage, but my god, he does it fast and can really clear out a wave of enemies. And in Guild Boss, he is perfect for taking out the shield. He can sometimes be the only hero that takes out the shield. And if you have him awaken 1, he does even more damage to enemies with shields, which is really cool. So all Infernal Blast members can deal significant increased damage with their ultimates. DPS heroes gain immense amounts of damage increase from their ultimates. Healer heroes capable of AoE healing that provide massive attack boosts for allies. Recommended mode? Ultimate derived burst damage and focus firepower for Guild Boss. This faction is really going to excel there. So as we were mentioning, Twin Fiend here, this is increased crit damage when you get him awakened for all of his faction allies. Of course, as always, the basic attribute bonus, but also when Twin Fiend casts the Meteoric Strike, all faction allies gain penetration increase, crit rate increase, and crit damage increase for 10 seconds. That's awesome. So if you're not as lucky getting the legendary, you can hopefully get Pyros. He's one of the most wanted heroes in the game also because he can be pretty decent. Plus, again, the faction bonus. When he is, when he casts Destruction Command, all faction allies gain penetration increase for 10 seconds. And that ignores 30% of defense and magic resistance. Really, really good. Ignoring defense is huge, especially somewhere like the Guild Boss with an enemy that does have a very high base defense. There's also this little teaser guy here. I'm just going to leave it at that. He looks pretty cool. It's a really gorgeous faction full of heroes from the Forerunner server and ones to come for global. But my goodness, I love this faction as well. With Setram and Nocturne is also part of it. We have one of the most, I would say, anticipated heroes as part of this faction. We'll talk about him when he comes. Let's keep rolling. Again, Dolores, Zilla2. Scorch is someone I'm curious about that I want to do more testing with. Same thing with Amani. Amani seems like she could be pretty strong, just maybe a little underrated. But I do want to do some stuff comparing people to maybe like Iona or someone, just some different mage damage comparisons. Or someone like Scorch is a fighter that deals some AoE. Can I use him like a baby version of, I don't want to say baby version of Valkyra, but there's some surprisingly good use for the fighters that have AoE damage, and even something like Gear Raid 1. We don't have the same infographics here for the Star Piercers, but yeah, we kind of know who they are. They're mostly our marksmen. They're really great, especially a lot of single target damage, but also they have really low cost, which makes them great for placement. So we have Aracha here as our lord. This is a very strong faction for airborne units, as her awakening kind of shows. She gets extra damage to airborne units from all allies if you get her awakened too. There's also Lunaria as the epic, so faction allies' attack ranges also are increased. They actually increase their range. That's one thing that's really cool about this faction is, their range, like Razak, one of our newest heroes. For every 1 tile away from the target, increases their damage by 5%, up to 50%. So, whew, you guys know Razak here, one of our new heroes. Just like Maul, he has that great range. That's going to come in handy if you can get lucky enough to get the Legendary Lord. It's going to make Gear Raid 3 a lot easier. Again, another great... all the factions are great, let's be honest. But yeah, this one has, our Mr. Anticipated hero that everyone's waiting for. I'm just going to scoot by that. We have Calypso, Razak, Nyx, Silas. Let's see, we have Toriel, who's got a really great ultimate where she kind of has unlimited range. And if you get her to A5, it lasts even longer. Super, super cool hero there. And yeah, I like this faction for this bonus. I think the Legendary Lord is a huge key to make Gear Raid 3 high levels possible. So it's certainly one that I hope I pull sooner rather than later. Next up, we have the Isoteria Order, unparalleled sustained DPS. The Esotericists excel in rapidly unleashing their ultimates to deal continuous and massive damage to their targets. Venoma is the Legendary Lord. If you pull her and a Comet early, you've got an amazing duo for some serious damage and a lot of content. I would love to pull her just to pair with my Comet. And as we mentioned, there he is. So they're masters of sustained high damage output, capable of activating additional skill effects upon continuous strikes. So the DPS heroes deal continuous damage, swiftly eliminating enemies with frequent ultimate casts. The healers provide AoE healing and rage regen. That's why everybody loves Elowen here. She's really strong in almost all content for great healing and rage regen. So really great for Guild Boss with that in mind. And of course, most of the gear raids, you can really use them everywhere. Really good heroes. Heading on over to the test server here, we're looking at Venoma. There's another one, Cyrus, that is not out on the global servers yet. And then for our epic, we have Raiden. Reduces a faction ally's skill costs by 15%. And with the legendary Venoma, it's 25%. Plus, she increases allies' rage by 30% upon their first deployment. It's all about the rage regen and using their ultimates as much as possible. I really like that for this faction. That's really cool. Everyone has like their own little unique niche. Comet is obviously one of our beasts, and a lot of unfamiliar faces in this one, so we'll have to see what comes to Global next. So scrolling through here, I wouldn't say many others stick out to me. This might be overall a weaker faction as far as the epics go. Although I do know you can use Laurel here to cheese some content where if you just recall her, you get a little bit of a rage regen boost. So that's something I have seen talked about. So that's a little fun thing to try that I haven't personally tried yet, but I might have to in the future. But yeah, really nice. I really would love an Elowen myself. And yeah, Comet needs a Venoma to go with him. And last but not least, we have the Chaos Dominion. So this faction is coming to the game this week. We have our very first Ancient Summoning event happening, and we're going to be getting the Chaos Dominion. So this is a faction that is geared toward arena. It's really made to specialize in PvP. So we have a ton, well, everyone should be unfamiliar unless you played on the Forerunner server. So I'm going to do a separate video just breaking down the different heroes of the Chaos Dominion and talk about where they will probably excel in the game. But this is a pretty cool faction overall. So the epic here increases faction allies' damage based on their HP lost up to 40% at 30% HP. The legendary up to 60% at 30% HP. the more lower their HP is, the more damage they do. It's kind of quirky. I wonder how that could be in Guild Boss, although it feels like it would get a little bit risky. It's almost like they're a little bit sacrificial, like it's like a frenzy guild, right? The Chaos Dominion frenzy. It's kind of like the closer they are to death, the stronger they become, like a berserker. I love that. It's a really different mechanic, but it could be something a bit hard and challenging to really excel with. So I kind of see why they say it's more of a PvP geared strategy. And then we will close this out with the Unnamables. So Ajax. Ajax is in the Lord category for summoning, but he is not a Lord. Can be affected by Lord skills of any faction and trigger skill effects as a member of that faction. So really it's just Ajax is like a universal faction hero that can take advantage of any Lord bonus. I normally just put him with like my Wrath so he could take advantage of the attack speed and whatnot, but there's probably better scenarios depending on which lords you get. But yeah, that's it. That's the Unnamable faction for now. So super fun to kind of have that universal hero. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. It was kind of fun to break it down and talk about it. Maybe it'll help put some ideas in your heads for completing some content that you've been stuck on. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.